Blessed ones. Impact. AB1 Studio presents Divide. Welcome to the pod. You are now in the Blair. Yo, what's up, blessed ones? This is Blair, Cancer Care Bear. No hair, don't care. All faith, no fear. And thanks again for tuning in the Blair Podcast. And I am your host, like you heard on the intro. I'm going to get right into it because the disrespect is real and I don't like it. And I know I'm late, but it is what it is. You know, life happens sometimes, as always. Drake and Michael Jackson. Drake versus Michael Jackson. No need to do fact checks. No need to do numbers. No need to discuss, the politics. But I do want to point out something. Since Drake is Billboard's Artist of the Decade, I do want to address one thing. As I was sitting here doing my due diligence, just sitting here looking. So, Take Care is Drake's number one album on Billboards. And Thriller is Michael Jackson's number one album on Billboards. Right? But, regardless of how you like it, or which album or what song was better on there, Drake's number one song on Billboards is No Guidance featuring Chris Brown. Great record. Billie Jean's is Michael's. Great record. And I just want to be clear and give you a disclaimer. I love Drake. Drake is probably my favorite artist right now, or at least one of my favorite artists right now, beside, close to, Chris Brown, Kendrick Cole, the typical, but Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is more than just my favorite artist. Favorite entertainer or whatever. Again, I love Beyonce. And I love Usher, I love Chris. And, but Michael Jackson, I remember listening to Michael Jackson as a kid, and I really believed, and I think I mentioned this before, I really believed in what he was doing. Y'all remember the Time video when he came up and turned into gold dust? I believed it. Remember, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white, and it turned into the Panther at the end. I really believed it. Thriller. These are videos and songs that, whether they're the number one records of Michael Jackson's career or not, these are records that, are timeless. And Drake has some timeless records. I'm not going to deny that. You know, it's just one of these things though where, of course Drake is great. He's an artist. He makes music. He makes pop records. You know, he make hip hop records, R&B records. You know, he also make, you know, Afrobeats records and stuff. But if we're just like, people are talking numbers. For me, I don't always talk numbers because numbers also lie. I talk as far as like, again, this could be feelings of a fact, but for me, no one can compare to Mike. You know, we always get this Beyonce is the second coming, or even maybe Janet and maybe like Chris Brown, Usher. I remember when people was talking about these comparisons, and I'm like, nobody can compare as far as I'm concerned because Michael Jackson, he changed people's lives with his music and with his attitude. You know, he had so much controversy behind him and all these allegations. And even with his music, it just did something. You know, I think today, right now, Dangerous is the top selling, his most top selling album right now, and that's the one that has one of my favorite records up there, Here in the World, which is probably one of my favorite Michael Jackson records. And like I said, not to discredit Drake. Drake, he makes great records, amazing records. I love a lot of his records, most of his records. But his music, they don't make me feel the way that Michael Jackson make me feel. Michael Jackson music makes me feel like a good person. Michael Jackson's music makes me feel like, I can, I can come back from hell, or come back from like, hey, all can be forgiven. Michael Jackson music gives me hope. Drake's music, it's a vibe. It makes me feel, hey, like, hey, I'm the man at sometimes. But it's just different. How dare you compare them? They are different. If we were to have a battle, if there would be a versus between Michael Jackson and Drake, regardless of if we think that Drake has more number ones, regardless of if we think that Michael Jackson has better songs, if we have a versus between the two, there's a possibility Drake could win. But just think about the audience. Think about the audience. Think about those who listen to Mike coming up, and even thinking about how we feel about him now, versus those who are listening to Drake now. Because it's going to be like, Drake has a large fan base internationally. Michael Jackson might have a more supportive or more largest fan base. You got to think this man was loved all over the world. Africa, Asia, everywhere. Like, and not saying that Drake doesn't. And maybe Drake is still too young in the game compared to Michael Jackson's career, which is another reason why the comparison is silly, because I heard someone talk about how Drake is an icon. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you. I'm not going to even sit here and lie to you. But I feel like Drake is an icon. Even if you want to define your own definition, but if we know what an icon is, which is pretty much kind of like a personal thing, regarded as a representative symbol or something, then Drake would be an icon. Drake can be an icon in, in Canada, and in rap and music, he can be an icon. But the thing about Michael Jackson is he's been an icon for so long, he is like immortalized. And that goes a long way. Forget the numbers. I'm not gonna say the numbers don't matter, but forget like just think about the impact it had on the world, the impact it has on people, and like again, everybody's different. But as far as I'm concerned, my opinion is my fact. There's nowhere in hell, nowhere in heaven that Drake is better than Michael. But Drake is great. Like I said, I love Drake, man. Like rest in peace to Michael. He's dead, but I love Drake. I'm not sitting here saying that Drake is terrible because he's not. I'm just saying like and as far as on the level as Michael Jackson. And I'm not gonna say he won't never get there, but Drake is what like 35, and I mean yeah, he might have made more records in like his time than maybe Michael Jackson. Like Michael Jackson has like 50 years, 40 years in the game. As a child from like probably about the time he was like 5 years old or something. But I mean Michael Jackson's not all. I don't like all his songs. Whether it was him with the Jackson 5 or him with himself. But I just wanted to put it out there, like I said, a lot like Drake's number one records. You gotta think as far as like, okay, it's an advantage of, you have social media, you have these apps like TikTok, have these apps like Instagram where, that music that we hear, those music that we hear in the background, those count. Those apply to the numbers, from what I know. And that's why I say, numbers don't really matter because it's like, hey, I mean, yeah, people can use Michael Jackson's music as well, but we gotta think about it as far as like the time now. You know what I mean? You will get laughed at if you're walking around here with a CD. You're getting laughed at if you're walking around here with vinyl records and you still go back to the original house party and they have like the spin records and stuff. Like everything now is done by their phone, sitting here done by just automatically. I mean, I'm not saying that people don't do DJs anymore. I mean, I'm not really much of an out outgoing person like that, but it's just like there's different tools now, and I never want to use that as an excuse. But at the same time, it's like look what Michael Jackson did outside of social media. Like I said, I never been to a Drake show. I never been to a Michael Jackson show. I have YouTube and I have word of mouth. And I think, and from my knowledge, there's not ambulance on standby. There's not people falling out in the crowd. There's not people out here crying, really trying to, and I'm not gonna say that it's not, but you gotta think Michael Jackson. Like I said, it's a different thing. Like this may be blasphemy, but like Michael Jackson was probably like the second God under Jesus. You know what I'm saying? To me. People always talk about, Michael, how Prince is a better artist, but I'm like, well, let's just think about it like this. Sure, Prince can play all instruments and he uses in his music, but let's put it like this. Are Prince songs better than Michael Jackson's? Like I said again, forget the numbers. Do you feel like Prince's songs are better than Michael Jackson's? And then you got to think about the same comparison when people compare, Drake and Wayne, Drake and Jay, and all that stuff. But again, Drake and Michael Jackson, that could be a fair comparison if they had the same amount of time in. But Drake don't have the time in. He might have way more songs that he put out at the time than Michael Jackson might have put out at the time. Because, back then, they didn't have, mixtapes. Whenever you heard Michael Jackson, it would be on TV, the radio. Like I said, there wasn't no internet. So, but you got to think, like, Michael Jackson has, I don't even know how many songs Michael Jackson has. I don't even know how many songs Drake have all together, including the features and everything. And maybe Drake probably did catch up to Michael song-wise, with all the mixtapes and all the features and stuff. But at the same time, you got to think about what the music done. I'm not saying Drake don't make any, inspirational music. He makes some pretty good inspirational musics. You know, God's Plan Band One, and you know, you know, Take Care featuring Rihanna. I mean, that's pretty much inspirational. I mean, it's about women, loving on your girl and doing this and that. But Michael Jackson, I don't want to have this discussion about that. I don't want to talk to anybody about that. You know, I hold Michael, like I said, I hold him up there with Jesus and stuff. And God forgive me, but when I was a child, and Lord knows this, so it's like at some points I used to be like, hey, look, I'd rather just listen to Michael Jackson music than go to church and listen to the word and go to church and listen to what Jesus saying, because Michael Jackson, his music was positive. He has some songs up there like Billie Jean, like, hey, this ain't my baby or whatever, and, Thriller, which was dark and kind of twisted, and, but at the same time, like, we got to think about this. Again, it's not about who did it, who was here first. It's about like what it means now. If you play a lot of Michael Jackson records now, those things still touch you. Man in the Mirror, and like I said, Heal the World. Liberian Girl. You have a lot of Michael Jackson records that we can name, and it's like, let's just put it like this: you name your favorite top 10 Drake records, and then you name your favorite top 10 Michael Jackson records, and you can put them together, and then you say, okay, which one would you rather play? Like I said, there's gonna, like, Michael Jackson does make, like, you can listen to a lot of Michael Jackson records in the club as well. So that's just the question I do challenge y'all to do, is like, challenge yourself, challenge your ear, challenge your the way that you live your life, and, like, I guess that's pretty much what it's all about. It's just the way you live your life. A lot of young children are gonna, a lot of young kids are gonna say Drake is better, and I mean, that's their opinion. But me being a 34-year-old man that grew up in the 90s and being born in 87, and, like, really knowing, what Michael Jackson done, even though by the time, I was born, Michael Jackson already had sold his best albums and stuff, but it's just, I remember when he was up there. Like, again, his Michael Jackson's later albums weren't that great. They didn't do too, I ain't gonna say they didn't do too well, but sure, I didn't really like Michael. I mean, I liked Michael more than I liked Invincible, but, like, Michael Jackson, to me, like I said, my favorite album, well, my favorite record is Heal the World, which is on his Dangerous album. So, it's just different. Like I said, I do feel like, Take Care is Drake's best album. Some other people won't think so because, again, he wasn't rapping as much up there, but I feel like, Drake, he, like I said, he's like he's a great man. He's a GOAT. He's a GOAT. He's one of the greatest right now. And, like I said, to be consistent for 10 years straight and no sign of stopping is remarkable. Like I said, the only other artist who was able to do that, well, sure, I'm not even sure, because I know Jay, he's still out here making records. Nas still out here making records. But they, sometimes they had, like, I don't know if they had like a 10-year run on top. I think there was a time, Drake, Jay came out 95, or, Reasonable Doubt. Then I think the Blueprint came out in 01. I think it was in 01. And I mean, that's 6 years, but anyway, y'all need to really beat it with the comparison. But y'all take care. Okay? And once again, I do appreciate y'all for listening. Please share, like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions. All information will be provided. But that's just my take on it. So make sure y'all stay safe, stay prosperous, positive, and productive. I'm done. 1.